Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back, and thank you for your continued viewership. It is appreciated. My name is Myron Yabar, and I'm your host. Today's discussion is about illegal immigration. Talking heads in the media from CNN, MSNBC, and even Fox News claim that the immigration system in the United States needs to be fixed. However, they're probably not referring to the same thing when it comes to their idea of what needs to be fixed. So, if you're a regular on my channel, you already know that I have a penchant for taking macro issues, like immigration, and scaling them down to the micro. I find it's easier to understand and digest some of the larger concepts. Admittedly, there's a lot of minutiae when dealing with issues like immigration. However, there are some large-scale ethical and moral conditions to immigration that when you look at them at the grand scale, they seem overwhelming, so scaling them down makes it easier to understand. Some people say that by scaling them down, I'm minimizing some of the effect, and thus some of my suggestions may not be equitable to all parties. However, my goal has never been equity. It's been fundamental fairness and adherence to law. And I've learned that fair isn't always the same as equal or equitable. So, here are some of the primary arguments I hear in favor of opening our borders, thus making illegal immigration a thing of the past. First, this is our land. It belongs to Native Americans or Mexicans, depending on the state or states being referred to. So technically, this is only partially correct. It is true, Europeans were not the first settlers in North America. However, inferring that Native Americans or Mexicans were is also incorrect. Depending on which theory you subscribe to, North America was populated by descendants from Asia who crossed the Bering Strait, or it could have been people who migrated from Alaska and Canada, or it could have been people from South America who traveled north. We really don't have a native population in the United States. So where do we pinpoint the date on our past timeline to determine who officially owns this land? Truth is, we can't. Even anthropological scientists can't agree on who is truly native. So from where I'm sitting, America appears to be a land that all races immigrated to at one time or another. So calling the United States a land of immigrants is more factually correct than our history books lead us to believe. Another argument is if this nation is a nation of immigrants, how is coming to the United States as an immigrant illegal? Well, this answer is pretty straightforward, but again, it will require scaling down the issue. So imagine the United States as your property. If you live in a city or suburb, it's likely that you have a house sitting on a piece of property with some type of fence or wall around the structure and a portion of that property. And this fence acts as a border between your property, your neighbor's property, and public property. As the owner of your property, you maintain authority to determine who can come in and who can't. If somebody knocks at your door and claims that they really like your house and just decides to walk inside, as a homeowner, you could promptly and, if necessary, physically escort them off your property. This is the exact same principle that the United States immigration policy is based off of. We, the people, want to have good, wholesome immigrants come to the United States who will adopt the American way of life and add to the collective good. To that end, we've adopted a process to vet people who wish to become United States citizens. Sidestepping this process because it's too time-consuming and or costly is not a viable excuse to illegal entry. This is no different than the vetting process you or I use to allow someone entering into our home. If you decided that you were not going to vet or stop anyone that came onto your property and into your home for any reason, then under current law, also known as adverse possession, you could and likely would lose autonomy to your property. Unfortunately, this is happening in cities all over the United States right now, but for a different reason. Finally, the most common argument I hear to allow anybody to immigrate into the United States unabated is the legal immigration process takes too long or is too costly and is biased. This argument also requires scaling down, but in the form of a parable. So let's say you're a migrant worker, migrant farm worker specifically, who has a wife and 2 young children. You live on a very fixed income, so you don't have a lot of discretionary spending, which oftentimes precludes family vacations during the summer when kids are out of school. However, you decide that for 6 months in the late winter and early spring pruning and harvest seasons, you're going to do as much overtime as possible to save money for a family vacation in the summer. So during this time, you save about $1,500, and at dinner, you make an announcement to your family that you're going to take them on an extended weekend vacation to Disneyland, because who doesn't like going to Disneyland? It's a 4-hour drive from where you live in Fresno to Anaheim, and you figure it's going to cost about $150 in fuel, about $400 for a room for 3 nights, and about $200 for food if you eat frugally. And that leaves you with $750 for 4 one-day park hopper passes. So you check the Disneyland website and you find the cost is right around $700. And it doesn't leave you a lot of cushion, but it's doable. So you pack the family into the car and you make the trip to the hotel. Everyone is excited. The next day you wake up early in the morning and you take the family out to Disneyland for their vacation adventure. Your kids are all hyped up because this is the very first vacation ever, and it's Disneyland. So you get to the park, you park the car, you walk up to the ticket gates, and you ask for 4 tickets. And they advise, you advise the gate attendant that you have 2 adults, 2 children, 1 is 7, 1 is 10. The attendant advises you that the cost is $800. And you look at them kind of confused because you recall the website, which noted that the cost for 4 people would be $700. And you tell the attendant the same thing. The attendant states that there was a price increase effective this summer, and the website unfortunately hadn't been updated with the new prices. So you're kind of screwed, right? You're upset. Your wife is mortified because, well, you know, they're embarrassed of people behind them. And the kids are crying because they're in front of Disneyland seeing everyone walk in and they don't get a play. So unfortunately, you have to turn around and with your family until you walk back to the car. But on the way back, you see what appears to be a break in the fence surrounding the park. So you grab the broken end of the fence, you pull it open as much as you can, and you tell your wife and kids to quickly crawl through, and you follow. Now you're inside Disneyland, kind of in the back area, and then you make your way into where everyone else is at, dust yourself off, and you're like, wow, I'm inside, and I saved myself $700 to boot. So you decided it would be a good idea to blend in. So you take the kids and the wife to the souvenir shop, and you purchase Mickey Mouse ears for them and a t-shirt for your wife and one for you. And with your souvenirs in hand, you make your way to the rides and attractions, and you're having a grand old time. So for about 4 hours, you enjoy yourself with your family. Everyone's happy and having a good time. And since it was getting a little bit past lunch, you decided, well, I'm going to pick up a few things to people to eat, and that way when we leave, dinner will be a little bit cheaper. So you purchase snacks and drinks at the park to tide them over until dinner. And at that point, you spend about $350 in the souvenirs and the drinks and the snacks and all that other stuff. So right around 2 p.m., you're in line for another ride. And at that time, park security approaches you and asks you and your family to accompany them. You do as instructed, and you're subsequently escorted into a small room at the entry-exit point of the park, inside of a small building. Security staff advise you that they have cameras in the area where the broken fence was, and they failed to get over there in time to get it fixed. And they observed you and your family crawling through the park, crawling through that broken fence into the park. So park security said that they're not going to press charges. However, they're going to escort you out of the park. So you plead your case with them. You advise them of the circumstances that led to you crawling through the broken fence, taking the trip and everything else. You also tell them that you and your family haven't caused any trouble, which you haven't. While you've been inside the park, you've obeyed all the park rules, and that you even spent money inside the park. So you contributed to Disneyland's bottom line. And despite that, you were still escorted off the property. So my question here is, do you believe, if you're looking at it from outside perspective and then yourself, do you believe Disneyland was well within its right to escort you and your family off the property? If you said no, then there's really no way that I would be able to convince you that illegal immigration is morally and ethically wrong. However, if you saw and understood that Disneyland was well within its rights to escort you and your family off the property despite you abiding by park rules and even contributing to Disneyland via your purchase, then you should understand that this concept is no different than that of the United States immigration process. Not everyone is going to be accepted, and not everyone should be. Further, personal hardships are not a viable excuse for criminal behavior. Never have been. The United States is a special place, and entry should be something that's earned and ultimately celebrated. Things that are taken and or given without recompense or condition don't really have any value. And of all the nations on this earth, United States citizenship is the most valuable and thus should be protected with proper and just vetting of all who wish to enter. Well, that concludes today's presentation. To my few and consistent subscribers, if you haven't noticed, my view counts have been slowly dwindling. Your continued viewership is what is keeping this channel afloat. Unfortunately, I haven't reached YouTube's minimum required views and subscriptions to warrant monetization, so all of this time and research is on my dime. So I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch, like, and share my content. If you are a new person and just stumbled across my channel and enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. I usually post one video a week, so you won't notice, or you won't get inundated with notices rather. Also, take the time to like the channel and share it on your social media. It only takes a couple of minutes, but it will help me get to a point where I can actually make some income to offset the cost and time of doing these presentations, and ultimately produce a better content, which is my ultimate goal. So again, thank you. And as always, have a great day and stay safe out there.